Set in the early days of the Soviet Revolution, the book opens with a four-legged narrator. Sharik is his canine name, and his low-down perspective gives us the down low on the down and outs in Moscow. While Sharik navigates angry chefs as he forages for food, he finds little empathy from the humans who find themselves in a similarly pitiful situation. Things are grim, and while the dog has no understanding of the political winds of change, he can detect the icy chill in the air as he tries to protect himself from the elements, and has a keen sense of how the majority are locked into a daily struggle, a heaving mass fighting over few resources. While the social reality is sobering, it is recounted with a surreal lightness of touch and a deliberateness of tone. A dog navigating city streets gives off an off-kilter yet familiar view of urban life. Then, once the dog takes human form, we lose access to Sharik's inner monologue. Instead, in parts, we get a dry medical account of the operation that makes him a man, where even a tail falling off and the creature finding his voice are recounted with scientific fidelity. There are handwritten notes that confess the growing alarm faced by the other character as Sharik evolves into an indolent drinker, predator, and political figure. As the story comes full circle, Sharik's thoughts fill our pages once more. Published after the author's death in 1968, this satirical novel skewers both sides of the political divide in Russia. So now the dog is a man and is called Polygraph. He is an intolerable presence in the house. His existence represents the unwelcome arrival, for some, of the Soviets in the country. The disorder that Polygraph brings is a disorder represented by the chaos sown by the new regime. Big apartments are subdivided against the owner's will, and things become more insecure and less efficient. Shoes that were once left in communal areas get stolen, and Polygraph speaks of division and social equality when he is little more than a freeloading nuisance, an interloper in other people's lives. Yet, if communism is a big, bold experiment in the country, the doctor who operates on Sharik, Philip Filipovich, is performing an audacious experiment of his own that, like atheistic communism, goes against God and the natural order. If he sees his work as having more merit, it is because he hates the proletariat and is a cruel elitist. He constantly harangues Polygraph and rejects any type of fatherly responsibility. It is little wonder that Philip's arrogance and aloofness, further highlighted when he speaks German or looks down on the circus, push Polygraph to a rejection of the upper classes and towards working class solidarity, no matter how idiosyncratic that is in the book. Sharik the dog is key to all of this. As a dog, he can read to a basic level, showing he is more intelligent than we might expect, but not that educated, which may seem to be an indictment of the working classes from the perspective of the writer. As a dog, he does not know why he has been rescued by the doctor. He assumes, despite being a mangy mongrel, that he comes from a good lineage, that he is handsome. In canine form, he buys into the bourgeoisie lifestyle and never really questions it. He takes for granted that he deserves it, which is an implicit criticism of the gentry and their God-given right to be rich. He revels in his superiority when he has a new collar, and both humans and dogs become more deferential. As a man, his lived reality pushes him to extremism, though the fact that his human parts come from a criminal and generally bad person, perhaps we can assume Bulgakov sees the Bolsheviks as a bad influence, as corrupting disruptors. Or we can see how a poor dog is operated on against his will, and how Polygraph is manipulated by the Soviets. In both forms, there are preying, destructive forces that undermine Sharik or Polygraph and their free will and consent. Despite the surreal elements and high farce, there is a lot of biography in the book. Bulgakov was a doctor who treated patients at home, and he was on the side of the White Army in the Russian Civil War. When most of his family emigrated to Paris, he stayed in Moscow and, like Philip, maintained an awkward coexistence with the Soviets. In one moment of his life, he was so depressed about not being published, he wrote a letter to Stalin, who took pity on him. This is rather interesting. After all, the name of the criminal whose organs are inserted into the dog, Chulkunkin, can be seen as a parody of Stalin's name. Bulgakov died relatively young and far from his family. There are tragic elements to his life. On a positive note, when the book was finally published in Russia in 1987, around 20 years after publication in the West, it was a sensation, beloved by a wide cross-section of society. In the modern world, it still enjoys its much-deserved status as a literary classic.